So technically from yesterday here, there's actually a secret number hiding here, and it's a 1. There's a 1 hiding. So this is really saying -1 times a -2 is a +2. So that's really what that means. It's hiding.
Over time.
It's really a -1. It's really a 1 there. So even when we were doing coefficients, remember when we didn't see a coefficient, what number did I put in there?
1.
A 1. So it's kind of the same concept. Yes.
How do you use the actual math?
Huh?
How do you use the actual math? Because negative is like 1
Is a positive.
How?
So the negative times the negative is a positive.
Oh, that number is negative.
Then you don't know how to multiply integers. It's just basically saying take the opposite of the opposite, which makes it not opposite. Okay? So let's look at some examples real quick here. So let's say, for instance, again, to show you different ways that they show multiplication and division, all that. So like, let's say, for instance, I have a -2 times 3. Okay? So do I have double negatives here? No, I'm multiplying, by the way, okay? So therefore, if I don't have double negatives, my answer is always going to be negative, and then just multiply. -6. That's it. Yes.
Wait, if it's in the 3, if it's like -3, what is it positive?
Just follow me. Okay, ready? Number 2. If I have 5 times a -1. Do I double negatives here? We multiply. No, so it stays negative, and what's 5 times 1? 5.
-5? Because it's times.
We are multiplying. We're multiplying.
Like, so you have to multiply 5, -1?
5 and 1. Just do like you normally would multiply, and then decide if it's not negative or positive. Okay? It's not good guys versus bad. That only works for addition and subtraction. Got it? Okay, well then you need to study that for it. So here we go. Ready? I have a -3 times a -7. I have a -3 times a -7. A negative times a negative makes a positive, and then I just do 3 times 7, which is 21.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
I understand.
Okay, it's not, you're just thinking because of addition. It's not the same rules. Okay? So for instance, if I had, now I'm gonna throw a little bit different here. If I had a -2 times a -3 times a -4. Okay? Rules still apply. Does it matter which way I go? No, because it's multiplication. So I go left to right. So what is a -2 times a -3? +6, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then I just multiply by this. So what's a positive times a negative? It will always be negative.
Oh, so you could have done a -2 times -4 then?
You could have done -3 times -4, that's a +12, and +12 times a -2 is still a -24. So it doesn't matter, because this is all multiplication. Okay, now, I won't do one with variables, because again, that pushes you a little bit. Well, I'll show you that later. But then we have problems where it might be this. -3 to the third power. No. Okay. Elena, what does this look like without actually doing the computation? Okay, -3 times -3, that's what it is. That's what that looks like, right? Okay, then you just follow the rules just like before. A negative times a negative is a +9, right?
Yeah.
And then if I multiply that by a -3, a positive and negative make a.
-27.
There you go, that's the answer.
Wait, is it squared, so would it be 81?
No, cube.
Oh.
If it was to the fourth power, it'd be 81, positive 81.
So, it depends how many there is.
Correct, if it's an odd exponent, your answer will be negative.
So for 4, if you added another negative, would it be positive?
If it's an odd exponent, it'll be positive. Yes. Of what?
If it's like,
Yeah, can I do my job? I gotta teach you all different forms first before I have to go up. Lord. I'm not done. You. All right, now, what if I switched it up and I said, okay, what about -3/5 to the fourth power?
I don't know how to solve that.
Yes, you do. Okay, pretend the negatives are not there. So this means take 3/5 and multiply it by itself 4 times, right? So look right here, this would look like -3/5 times -3/5 times -3/5 times -3/5. Okay, hold on, we already know part of this, okay? This is why I like this one. So if I look at this by going upwards, a -3 times a -3 is a, what's 3 times 3? And negative times a negative is a?
Positive.
Okay, be 9. So therefore, this would be also 9, right? And then what's 9 times 9?
81.
So the numerator is 81. Okay, hold on. 5 times 5 is?
25.
And it's all positive, so we don't have to worry about that. 5 times 5 is also 25. 25 times 25
It's 100.
would be 625.
Oh, I will.
It'd be 625, I'm doing the math for you. Okay? All right. So, again, it's the same idea, the only difference is we have negative. You've done fractions with exponents before. Okay? You see how this was an even exponent and it came out positive, right? Where the last one was an odd exponent and it came out negative.
Wait, would it still be equal to, 3/5 though?
No. You can't simplify that. Because 3 and 5 won't be, like, they don't have anything in common. Right, no common factors. other than nine.
Yeah.
So that won't be simplified, that's the answer. I wrote it as a decimal, it'd be 0 point something.
Were you kidding?
Not because of the 5, I don't think it would. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know that one, sorry. Can't tell you that. All right, now, so those are just your basic multiplication. Now, if I had division, the same applies, so like, just follow me here. Again, you can't. That one won't simplify. I think typically most of them will not simplify, because they don't have anything in common at the beginning. Okay, let me show you just a division one, again, if you're catching on, you don't have to write all these examples down, maybe write 2 of them, but if I had a negative, I don't know, 200 divided by 2, okay, same rules apply. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and then I would have a 1 with 2 zeros.
Why don't you,
Huh?
why don't you just say a number? Okay, what was the zero? Okay, never mind.
Okay, I'm showing you my trick, that's what I use, because I do bigger numbers, I don't have to do all that. Again, they could write a division problem like that, same idea, or they could write a division problem like this, negative 56 divided by a negative 7. What would be my answer here? Positive or negative? Positive, and what is 56 divided by 7? 8.
8 on the plus.
Decently easy.
Okay, multiplication is the easiest, and division. Okay, so. Okay, go up to the board, I want you to try these, and then I got 2 different other examples. So we are not done after this, so don't think that I'm gonna give it, don't ask me. Division's the same rule. So if you have 2 negatives, it makes it positive. If you have 2, not 2 negatives, it makes it negative. Okay, so here's a mixture.
I wonder where it is.
It's a little petty, but.
Okay, those 4 problems. Remember, when you're multiplying or dividing, if you have double negatives, it's positive. Other than that, it's negative. Well, you should know positive times divided by positive, so I don't mention that, but double positives do not make a negative, just to clarify.
I'm gonna put the parentheses.
I just realized that
Two of these the answer should be positive, and 2 of them should be negative. You're doing it right when you're all done. 2 are positive, 2 are negative. Again, if you have double negatives, it makes it positive. Other than that, it doesn't really matter up to that point. So if you have a negative times a negative, it makes it positive. So -3 times -5. Negative is positive. It's saying like, you're not getting that.
Wait, no, we're not supposed to add. I'm sorry. 30, look at it.
Two answers should be negative, 2 answers should be positive, if you did it right. Most of you are good over here.
Oh my gosh, I know. Oh my God.
Again, it's new, you're not used to being, you actually have to like remember how to do things. It just doesn't absorb up in your brain.
That is insane. Right.
Okay, how's the 4? Even I didn't learn.
How do you multiply a negative?
Yeah, you got it. All right, first one. Ready? Okay, so, see how you did, okay, for the first couple that you got. You're good. Okay, this is a negative times a negative, so these become positive. So this is 15 times 2, which is 30. This is a negative divided by a negative, which becomes a positive, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. Make sense? like that. Now this one is a -2 times a -2, but then times a -2. Two negatives multiplying make a positive, but then I got this one, which then changes the sign.
Oh.
That one threw it off, because that has 3 negatives, which means another negative doesn't have a buddy, so in order to be a positive. And then the last one, a positive divided by a negative is negative, and it should be -5. So most of you have that. And again, some of you had initially -30, but then changed it because you're like, oh wait, negative times a negative. You gotta think when I'm multiplying or dividing, I'm not following good versus bad. Okay, that doesn't apply. Okay, next type of example. Okay. Is where I would be using as the distributive property to solve. So let's see if we have this one. I'm just gonna start out pretty simple. No, not yet, I have to teach it to you. Okay, all right, now. Are you done? Okay, thank you. How do we do the distributive property? Remember that we take the factor, because I can't add those together, right? One's a constant, one has a coefficient, they're not the same. So if you do recall, we would take the factor and give it to each term, right? But now you have to pay attention to the sign. So what do I have here? I have a 3 times a -2y, and then 3 times a +6. Again, look at the sign in front. So let's rewrite it. So this would be 3 times a -2y, and then a 3 times a +6, or just 6. That's rewriting it. Now I can then multiply what I can. We know 3 times 6 is 18. Now follow your rules. A negative times a positive is a negative. Okay? 3 times 2 is, and then you just tag along Mr. Y. There's your answer. Okay, by the way, you could write it that way. You could actually write it this way. You could write it this way. And those are all the same answers. And you should understand why. Because this is still -6y, right? It does say -6y. And this will say +18. These are all equivalent. Yes, dear.
Now, if Y was equal to something, would you?
Then we could evaluate it. We, only for this, we're rewriting, not solving, we can't solve. But yes, if I gave you Y is blah, 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 yeah, then you plug in and then solve. Okay, so let's look at another one. Now, this is where, this one will throw some kids off. So, we have 2. So let's do, -7. And then I got 2 minus 4x. Yeah. I made them all those ones. These ones don't have to worry about fraction or anything. So, okay. Again, pay attention to the sign in front. So the sign in front of the 2 is actually positive, and the sign in front of the 4 is actually negative. So you have to pay attention, because that's going to change your answer. So I give the -7 to the 2, so -7 times 2. And then I have a -7 times a -4x. Again, you look at the sign in front. Not behind. 2 is not negative, it's positive. That's the number 1 Google right there. So, what's a negative times a positive? And I just get -14. And then I have a negative times a negative, which would make a, and then therefore 4 times 7 is 28x. You can write it that way. Or you can put the 28x in front and then put plus a negative 14. Or you could do 28x minus 14. All of those are the same. Because now we know subtraction, I can write a addition problem. Okay? I did not change the values. This still stayed negative 14, and this still stayed positive 28. Either way, doesn't matter. Now, last type of example I'm gonna have you go up. So, what if I had what would be my answer? I don't have to do any math. What would be my answer? So,
Just X plus 5.
MJ?
6x plus negative.
That's right. That negative is a negative 1 technically, right? Remember I told you that? Right? Okay, hold on, but hold on. So it's technically a negative 1 minus 6x plus 5, right? And then you would do this, which would be this, which would be 6x. And then I would do this to this, which this is still positive 5. So negative 1 times 5, which is, he said plus a negative 5. That's still right. I would have just wrote 6x minus 5. That's just me, okay, because I've been doing this a lot. But there's another way to think about it. What are negatives also? I've used a word to replace a negative sign. And I used the word opposite before, haven't I?
Yeah.
Okay, that basically means, in other words, take the opposite of these two terms. The two terms inside the parentheses. What's the opposite of negative 6? What's the opposite of positive 5?
Negative 5.
Done. That one actually works out well. Either way, you get the same answer. So if you rather realize that it's really a negative 1 in front, fine. That's not gonna matter. But again, make sure you give it to every single term. Okay, there's like one other type of example on your homework where it's like, what he asked me, like, what if I gave you x minus y divided by, I don't know, 3, and I told you x was negative 3, and y was something, you should be able to do that now, because it will be a mixture of addition and multiplication. Okay, all right, so go to the board. These are 2 questions for your exit ticket, and then you can grab your homework and get started.
Wait. What are 2 questions?
I'm gonna write them. I wrote them. Okay. And then I have one for a merit to see if you know how to do this one, which will be on Tuesday anyway. Okay. I think that's a negative 9. And this one's for a merit.
What did you made it look so hard? But it's not that
Rewrite those, but simplify the last. That normally what we're doing on Tuesday. See, most of you know the last one. Once you're done with whatever, you don't have to do the merit one, that is optional. If you're doing the merit one, make sure your name's on your board. And then if you want to start your homework, once you do the first two, then you can grab this here on my desk. Then always pay attention to the sign in front. That's why I circled the sign in front as I started out. Again, if you do not see a coefficient, it is blah, blah, blah. I went over that. I'm glad that I said the word coefficient and your brain remembered what I was talking about. That's good. Not a bad thing. Oh, kids are freaking out about negative y. There's a coefficient in front of the, between the negative and the y. Okay, make sure if you're doing the bonus, you gotta write, or the merit one, you write your name on the board so I don't forget. Then you can grab the homework and get started. You do not have to do the third one. So if you're getting stuck on number 2, the coefficient is really, that's a negative 1y. That's really what it is. So you look at the sign in front. If you have to circle it, I would. So for this one right here, just be careful that you know that this is a 1 and that this goes with this 2. This last one, I'm interested to see. Most of you should get this one. Okay, remember, you always try to get rid of your parentheses first if you're going to do the last one.
Oh.
Using a property. You use it, I obviously put it with this because you have to use a property to get your answer. The next, just play next. Oh, it's negative 7x. You already know.
Oh.
You're okay. Yeah, not all of it, only third part of it. But you just forgot your variable. That's why you're freaking out. You're doing it right. Okay, number 3, you should not get a number. It should be a expression. It should be like something x plus something or something x minus something. It goes down to 2 terms in your answer. You should have a coefficient with a variable and a constant. If you don't know, you don't know. But the first 2 I'm going to go over. Okay, first 2. Ready? Number 1 was. How are we doing? Let's see. Ready? Negative 3 times a negative 9. So negative 3 times a negative 9y is a positive 27y. And then give it to this. Well, this is a positive 10, but that's a negative 3 times 10, which is a negative 30. So there's your answer. Number 1 was 27y and a negative 30. You don't have to put plus sign in between. If you did, it's still right. Okay, same answer. Okay, next one, you should have had, give this to this, negative 4 times 6, which is negative 24. And then a negative times a negative, so negative 4 times a negative 1y is 4y. And then I just put addition in between there. You could have it that way, or you could write 4y minus 26 or 24. That's still the same answer. We're not solving these. You cannot get again. The variable doesn't go away unless I know what the variable is. And you can't combine these because they're not both y. Just letting you know. Okay. Everybody done with the bonus? Yes. Huh? You sure? You have to go up and go. Okay. All right, ready? Look right here. This is what we're gonna do tomorrow. Or well, the next day we're together, okay? You get rid of the parentheses first, right? So this is a positive 2. Now, sometimes this might be a negative, you gotta pay attention to that, that does make a difference. You give the 2 to this, so that's negative 14x. Give this 2 to the 5, so that's 10. And then here's now my new problem. I have a 3x. Well, I like to rewrite it. So now this, I can't add those together. I have now a negative 3x and a negative 14x and a 10. Nobody goes with 10, that's my constant. It's done, I can't do anything else with that. Okay, so therefore I gotta do the rule with adding. So they are all bad, so I add, but I keep the sign. Nobody got it? If you had 10 minus 17x, or let's see, hold on. It's okay if you didn't do it. She was close. Okay. Let's see. Negative. Oh, that was close. It was x. Very close too. Okay, you can't just combine the negative 3x and the negative 7x at the beginning, because there's parentheses there. Anybody else over here get it? I'm just curious. Yeah, you can't just make the variable go away. It has feelings. Okay? But that's what we'll be practicing, okay? Other than that, this is it. That's the like the hardest I would go with those types of problems. Okay, so after the multiplying and the dividing, it would be distributed property with combining like terms. Yes? Yep. Okay, Blake, what was your question, hon? Okay, answer key's up, on my desk if you want to check your answers. Homework's up there if you want it.
Wait, do you want it? So we don't have to-
I mean, I meant the homework answer key.
Could this